Welcome to Refresh. And, I'm happy to say we can still say Happy New Year. I think the protocol, if we're following any protocols in the new life we're living, you can do it till the end of January. So it's still January, although it is so flying by. But this is our time to connect, to be inspired, to learn something, and ultimately feel a bit better for this time spent together. And that's what Generation W is all about. And speaking of Generation W, 2022 is the year. Listen, we have had incredible virtual gatherings, but April 1st is the day when we are planning to all come together in person. I am resolute about this, for our annual thought leadership event. Connection is the theme, and connection will be the action. There's more to come. The program, great speakers have already committed, and we'll be sending more information out to all of you about that. But I have to say, we're really, really excited. It will be a great day of refreshment and spirited conversation and connections. And for all of us, the opportunity to recharge and revitalize. April 1st is the day. Put it on your calendar. And worthy of note, because we do sell out every year, and there are people all around the world that do want to attend. I think one of the benefits of COVID is we've learned how to, one, be consumers of virtual technology in a way that's comfortable. We've also learned how to deliver it in a way that is exciting and engaging. So we will also be making the show available virtually, and you can check on our website, genwnow.com, to figure out how you too can participate, whether you can't make it down to beautiful Jacksonville Beach, Florida, which, by the way, it is really special. Now, I have to tell you, funny, as I was preparing this morning for this time, excited for the conversation with Angie, of course, and excited for the opportunity for you to meet her, my mind wanders, as it is apt to do, right? Phrases flow in and out of my brain. Sometimes it's songs or movies or headlines. I have to tell you, it used to worry me, but now I just accept it as my thinking process and choose to see it as an expansive way to create and view the world. Now I have to ask, does anyone else do that? I don't want to feel like I'm totally alone here, because it's, we always want company in this. But this morning, what popped into my brain? Stop the world, I want to get off. Of course, then I had to find out, why am I thinking of this? And learned that it was the name of a show that debuted on the West End in London back in 1961. But it's a phrase that certainly has lived on, right? And for me, why this show title, and why now? Why this morning? And I realized that there are some days that life's bounty is overabundant, and the desire to say stop becomes necessary. I have to get off. Or better yet, I just like the whole world to stop so that I don't miss anything and we can all take a break. That's why I like those collective vacations where everybody's off doing their thing. Well, for me, I guess it just seems to be the mood of the moment. But I also realized that perhaps it does frame in a way so perfectly the conversation for today. Because as I think about Angie and her story, which you will learn soon enough, just 2 more minutes, she not only said, stop the world, I want to get off. She did it. You see, Angie was a senior executive at the store we all love, Target, walking distance from my house. Who leaves Target? Well, Angie did. And leveraging her merchandising experience from over a decade there and combining with her lifelong commitment to wellness and well-being. Oh, and also, and this is so great, an endless thirst for knowledge, she launched Ray Wellness. Whenever I hear Ray, what do you think of? I think of there's a little, again, you know me now, a little beam, there's some kind of song phrase and this beam of light that comes up, right? And it's a whole holistic wellness company. She and her team are connecting and creating success. And today, Angie, say hello to everybody.
Hi, good morning.
She'll be sharing her story and giving us tips on how we can drive our wellness on and shine from the inside out, which I think is always such a beautiful shine. So Angie, thanks so much. So happy to meet you. Thanks to our friends from Trail Runner, of course, for making sure that we did meet, because that is so valuable. So how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. I'm awesome. Great to be here.
Great. And we have already people saying hello. So before we go, we say, Joy's delighted to be here. Lisa's delighted to be here. Erin from the West Coast. She actually lives, Erin, where are you living these days? You didn't move, did you? And she moved over from Facebook. Nice. Well, we're so glad to have everybody. So let's start, Angie. You told me that you were 5 years old and meditating. All right. I am not 5 years old and I can't meditate, although I can't say can't because that shouldn't be in my vocabulary. But tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, I was a super weird 5-year-old meditating on the lawn in Fargo, North Dakota. So in the homogenous village of Fargo, North Dakota. So not only was I a weird kid, but it was exemplified by kind of my community and surroundings. And so I grew up in a really holistic household. My mom was a nurse. She was very Western in her wellness beliefs. My father was very Eastern in his. My mom would say, take the Advil, and my dad would say, spit that in garbage and put this under your tongue from a homeopathic perspective. And so I grew up with such a cellular appreciation of well-being my entire upbringing. But I'm of 3 girls. And my parents always said the world does not look like this or feel like this. So go figure out what that means for you. Go chase your dreams and your why. So what that meant for me was corporate. So my career started in corporate to live a life my parents never had, and it allowed me to travel the world and make the money and do all of those things that I thought were important. I got to this point. I worked at Target for 13 years. I was creating brands from scratch in home and apparel. You can appreciate Chip and Joanna Gaines that are now at Target. Like I just had this, amazing career of building brands. Well, one day, after talking about next steps in my career, I drove home and pulled off to the side of the road, and the universe gave me a very physical sign, amongst others, in coming weeks, where I had to pull off to the side of the road because I got sick and I felt sick. And every time I thought about that new role that I was going to take, my 14th role in 13 years at Target, I got really, really ill. So I came home and I started talking to my partner, and I was like, what is wrong with me? All the questions that come, what is wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Why don't I want this? Everybody wants this. This is everybody's dream. And I had a moment then, and in the course of 2 weeks, the universe continued to show up and smack me with my new why. And that is, Angie, you're burned out. A lot of women feel the same way. You have to figure out this wellness thing, and you have to chase it professionally so that you walk it personally, because I'm a student of everything I do. If I'm not learning, I'm not growing. If I'm not growing, I'm not happy. And so for me, it was combining those two things, not having any clue what was in front of me or that Ray was even going to be a thing at that point. So I resigned in pursuit of my own well-being.
Wow, that's amazing. And obviously we're going through our last session was with Carolyn Fairchild, and we talked about people talk about the great resignation. She's talking about the great reshuffle. And in a sense, you didn't resign your life, you reshuffled your life, you rethought your life. And I love this phrase. How many of you out there in the world have felt that you've been smacked by the universe? No, think about that, right? How often are we smacked by the universe and we don't even pay attention? And you paid attention. So help us understand how we need to be paying attention to that.
I was finally ready to listen. This had been trying to show up for me for a while. My friends had been saying, Angie, you're not yourself. Angie, you keep talking about honoring your late father and wellness. Like, this had been happening for a while, but it took a physical sign for me. Pulling off to the side of the road and getting physically ill, it took a physical sign for me to see what had been in front of me for so long. And so I think the signs are different. I think everybody's ability to listen is different. I now have tools that I never had, right? Is I'm chasing my own well-being every single day, that I didn't even know existed, or gave us the ability to listen. And for me specifically, it is going back to the weird 5-year-old and meditating and spending some time just being quiet, and taking a minute. I think taking a minute, and it just takes a minute sometimes, but taking that minute is everything, just to be still and just to be quiet and see what you said. Things just come into your brain. You were doing this all morning. Really just allowing that process and allowing things to flow.
It's so interesting because I always feel like that I'm wasting my time. Like I read every productivity.
Yeah.
I've tried every productivity app. I read all of that. And yet when I sit down, I just things pop up and
Yeah.
I want to read them, or I want to go here. I want to go there. Now I understand we have to be productive, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Before we move on to before you left Target, you talked about great brands you helped create. Tell us a little bit about those. I think that that'd be fun to hear what you've got the opportunity to participate in which we participated in with you, because obviously they were the result of your brainchild and work.
Yeah. So like I said, I was in home and apparel my whole career. And so touched every piece of apparel. And a lot of those are Target owned brands. So like we create those internally. So you understand the consumer and you understand what they're looking for and the micro and macro trends, and owning your ability to be able to see those things and translate them into retail. A lot of the new home portfolio. So if you appreciate Opal House, Project 62, Chip and Jo at Target and everything that they've done. And on the apparel side, it was the old days of, I'm sure everybody remembers Massimo and Verona.
Of course.
But then certainly that whole portfolio has been kind of flipped upside down. And I spent a ton of time in baby, launching the baby brands, the baby apparel brands. Cloud9 is one of them. And so spent a ton of time just understanding and listening and paying attention to what the consumer said and wanted.
So you made this transition, but I'm gonna what are you hearing consumers say today? You've transitioned out of Target, right? So you had those listening ears on. Now you have new listening ears. What are they hearing?
Yeah. Women are finally starting to put themselves on the priority list. And it is so exciting. To your point, you feel like you're wasting time. But now you're considering when you say, I feel like I'm wasting my, now you're considering how you're spending your time, right? And that years ago, I think was just a totally different concept for a lot of us, right? I think whether you call it quarantine, whether you call it the evolution of so many different facets of our lives, I think women are finally starting to understand that they have to put themselves on the priority list in order to enable their own well-being. And we'll talk a little bit about mind versus body and how to holistically think about that. But that is first and foremost the most exciting part of why we started this company and why I started my journey, as I was finally ready to put myself on the priority list.
Well, let's talk about that. All right. So the time comes, the universe smacks you, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to make a change. I'm sure your colleagues were surprised at Target. They wanted you to stay. But you said, no, I got to go. Now what happens?
I start to take care of myself, and I start to take care of my own well-being. I was privileged to take a couple months off. I had a Post-it note, just to be clear. When I was leaving, I was like, I got to let myself know that I can do the thing. I literally had a yellow Post-it like this. And I was like, I had 10 ideas. I was going to open up a meditation clinic. Like, I didn't know what it was at that point. So I spent some time, my husband, my partner was super supportive, and I took some time to take care of myself. I started running every day. My hormones were imbalanced. So I started there. I was like, my cortisol levels are high. I am stressed out. So I started looking for opportunities to do that through food, through nutrition. And certainly I believe in supplementation. I don't think that there's any amount of kale, salmon, avocado that can replenish what we as women put out on a daily basis. And so I've always subscribed to the thought that sometimes we need a little bit of help in the nutrition sphere. So I couldn't find what I was looking for. That's what it boiled down to.
It's like, well, worry, because I actually went to CVS yesterday, and I spent a lot of time in the vitamin supplement aisle trying to figure out what do I need. And I literally was laying on the ground because I had to go alphabetically, and I couldn't find selenium, and someone told me that was good. What do we need? Like, what were you looking for? Just curious.
When you ask me, what are women saying? The biggest thing that we continue to hear, and I continue to hear, is, I don't know what's wrong, but I just don't feel quite right. Yeah. And so to self-diagnose and to understand, to your point, is it selenium? Is it vitamin C? Like, what is it that you need? And how you tease apart, is it a mind thing? Is it a body thing? Is it both things together? And oh, by the way, what's the root cause of what? Is it hormones? Is it stress? Is it sleep? What is the root cause? Is it digestion, which we know has a direct line to the brain? And so what is it for me? That's why we started this company, to think holistically around that question, and not just to tell everyone it's a digestion thing, or this is what it is for you. It could be a number of things blended together. And so for us, and the impetus was, how do we create a company? And what was missing for us is a company that focused on holistically addressing all of the things I just described: stress, sex, skin, digestion, all of it together. and approached it from a mind and body perspective. So much of it is like vitamin D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, nutrition, right? But there's a blend of things, vitamins and minerals, herbs and botanicals, clinicals in Western medicine, and ingredients that have been used for thousands of years in Eastern medicine. How do we blend this together in the best way for mind and body across a number of different functions and make it easy? Talk about sex.
Of course. Like, so we're all struggling here. And I hope people come on, if you're on Zoom, hi, Kelly, and Facebook. Love you. Like, okay, so listen, we're all struggling in our own ways. And you know what? I think it's right. We feel good, but we feel but. There's a but, right? We feel but. And none of us want to say we don't feel good because we're blessed or we're working hard, whatever it is, right? So that's one thing we want to get into. But two, you leave a company, you're privileged enough to take some time, right? Some of us can't do that. But now you want to do all of this. How do you say, okay, I'm going to start here? Like, what's the first formulation you did? What did you look at? What were your steps?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing is, can we create products that help women feel better? Right? Because if some people say it doesn't matter how good your product is if your marketing's awesome. I feel completely opposite from that statement. It doesn't matter how good your marketing is if your products don't work and don't make people feel better. So that was the longest thing is, how do I trust a manufacturer? How do I trust a supply chain? And to be clear, I created apparel products. I've sourced cotton, you know what I mean? And so for me, it was asking the questions and finding those that can help me learn and help me look around corners, because I certainly am not a chemist. So that was it. And finding someone that just truly got what we were trying to do, right? It's not about vitamins and minerals. It is about all of the things that the world has taught us and how to blend them together specifically for women, because that was the white space, is a lot of people aren't addressing hormones, as an example, or what libido means for women. Viagra has been around for a really long time, but nobody was having the conversation around how to help support sexual wellness for women.
Okay, so again, how do you dig into this? How do you dig into this?
Found a manufacturer. Therein lied a chemist that was 5'0" and helped us formulate all of our products, finding a quality and regulatory person, and parallel pathing the brand and the ethos, right? And so for me, all of those things, we started with the end in mind. And so what does this company want to be in 5 years? That's how I always have to think. What is the why behind what we're doing? I think brands can be a platform for change. So if you think about standing for women, if you think about standing with women, if you think about furthering the next generation of women, how does this need to look from a business model perspective so that we can impact lives? And so starting for 5 years away, I was like, it needs to be holistic. So our product territories need to be broad. We need to impact change. So I want to develop an omni-channel model. I'm not just going to start online. I'm going to start talking to retailers really, really early in the journey so that we can scale quickly, provide amazing products at a price that makes sense, and truly provide attainable wellness for women. And so for us, it was starting with that end in mind, and the belief that wellness shouldn't have to be a full-time job, shouldn't have to be expensive, and it should be for everyone. And so for us, it was that kind of led. You said, how do you get started? You start there, and then every decision we made kind of laddered up to that.
Yeah, I just want to repeat what you said, because I don't, there's so many great nuggets here. Wellness should not be a full-time job, but it is. So how does it not become? I don't know. Listen, again, I'm asking everybody here. Just pop it in the chat. Let us know on Facebook. Is wellness a full-time job for you, or actually, do we feel like it is, and we just have no time for it? So it becomes a no-time job for us, even though we should be putting ourselves on the priority list.
I think. Here's my take on it. I'd love to hear everyone else's perspective. We have a tendency to overthink a lot of things, right? And if we can't make a broad sweeping change and start running 3 miles, or we can't sleep 8 hours every single night, whatever it is, we have a tendency to start something. And if we don't do it really, really well, we might throw that habit out. And so for me, wellness, and this is our voice, and this is what I want everyone to realize, wellness can be standing during a Zoom meeting. Wellness can be drinking an extra glass of water. Wellness can be taking 1 minute, not 20 minutes to meditate, right? Like, it can be as simple as those things throughout the day. that can really help you feel better. And it's funny because I tie those things, like I take my vitamins out right after I brush my teeth. Right. So now I don't take, I take my vitamins every single day right after I brush my teeth. So it's tying it to something that's already habitual. I text my mom when I'm making lunch, right? Just to text like that makes my mind well. And I know that makes her well. So tying it to the everyday things, those small habits start to add up into a life of small things that actually promote wellness more broadly.
Right. Okay. Well, so like you take your vitamins. Sometimes I worry about taking my vitamins after I brush my teeth because there's nothing in my stomach, and sometimes my vitamins I take make it a little upset. So that's why I'm interested in your take on what vitamins. Okay. So all right. So now we move to products. Anyone have any questions? Please feel free and post. Erin says, and Erin always is sharing in such a positive, helpful way. She says, I'm not serious. I definitely feel like if I'm not seriously intentional about wellness is one of the first things to fall off the priority list, as you point out. Constantly have to be mindful of it and something that's exhausting. But you don't want it to be exhausting, right?
It shouldn't have to be. It should be small habits, small things, small changes throughout the day. And when you do those things, you should give yourself a high five. When you do those things, you should celebrate. If we focus 5x on the good, right now the ratio in our minds is 5x bad to good. If we start to flip that and say, I took my vitamins again, right? I didn't forget to text my mom again, like celebrating even those small wins for us, I think is really, really critical. I stood half hour during this Zoom meeting, whatever those things are, I think making sure that you just take a second to pat yourself on the back because our minds have a tendency to not do that for us. So we need to be intentional about that.
Without a doubt. Everybody want to welcome you to Refresh wherever you are today. We are with the amazing Angie Tebbe, who decided to say, stop the world, I want to get off and I want to do something more and better, and created Ray Wellness, real focus on women. And I really do love I think all of us here, especially Generation W in our community, love this idea of creating a brand around women that stands for women, that stands by women, that is so intentional about understanding women. And it's interesting because I just did this yesterday, as I told you, and I stood at the counter at the CVS. I'm like, even the ones that say women brands sometimes make me feel uncomfortable because I don't really know. I don't intuitively trust that that's what they did the work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And
yes.
I think that's out there for all of us, right? You want you want a place that you can trust. And it sounds like your process is invested in creating that trust.
Yes. And it's interesting. It's like everything that we think about all of the time, most brands, a lot of brands in the space, and I even say the clinicals, right? Like clinicals, I like to say are of mice and men, because that's who they're testing, selenium on, to your point. And so for us, it was like, how do you create? Men can take our products, but how do you start with women versus start with men and then create the women's version of it? And so for us, it was totally reversing the thought process and mindset behind the company and who we stand with and who we advocate for in our community.
Right, absolutely. Now, I've heard you talk a lot about stress and the impact on women. Are we more stress beings than anyone else? Do we handle it differently? What can you help us with that? And are there supplements that really help us deal with stress better?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lifestyle strategies.
Yeah. I always say wellness begins with the mind. And so often, we're like, let me start a new workout regime. Let me change my diet. Let me do all of these things for the body. For me, it is so incredibly important to start with the mind. And for me, if that fuels everything else, right? Like to your point, if your mind is well, your digestion is better. If you are focused, you get more done, and then that feels really, really great, right? And so putting your mind on that priority list, as we discussed at the beginning, is really, really important. That looks different for everybody. The tactics are different, but if you start there, that will play out into your ability to manage manage stress.
No, that's absolutely true. And I think you offered, we always like to do those 3 tips. Sherry, why don't we put that up, the starting with your mind one, and we can talk through some of the things that Angie's already said, but really worthy of kind of putting in our brains and holding on to. Here we go. This is Angie's tips for the day, starting with your mind.
Most people say, a founder of a wellness company, work out 3 times a day, all of that. To me, all of that is really wonderful, but mental health is the most important aspect of our well-being. And so I mentioned a little bit around, celebrate the small wins, focus 5x on the good, positive to negative ratio. I think that's everything. If you do something really small, you didn't hit the snooze button this morning, give yourself a virtual, like a high five, catches, like acknowledge those moments of good, because that is what's going to carry you. So that is really, really important. Take a minute. We talked a little bit about this. It doesn't mean that you need to sit on your floor pillow and meditate for half an hour. It can be as simple as taking a breath for 1 minute, walking around your apartment or wherever you are for 1 minute. Take that opportunity to clear your mind. It is not a waste of time. It is the best use of time. And so that's really important. And then lastly, our community tells us all the time, this notion of a list, putting yourself on the priority list, or I fall off the list. We love lists. We live on lists because there's so much going on and so much to do. I encourage people to continue, and my team and my friends and my mom, keep reshuffling that list. That list will never end. And so if the inbound that you get throughout the day, put it at the top, middle, or bottom of that list. And the reality is you're not going to finish that bottom third because it wasn't that important anyway. But for some reason, we feel like we need to check every single thing off. Things are going to fall off because there's just too much. It's all just too much. So don't finish your list.
It is true, but I will say sometimes I'll do something that's not on my list, and then I'll write it down to check it off, just because does anyone else do that, right? It just feels so good, right? Oh my God, I did something not on the list, but okay, I'll write it and then check it, which is all good. This idea of reprioritizing, I think it also speaks to your self-description of always being curious and learning, right? If you're able to reprioritize, it means you're able to relearn things that you're doing every day and say, okay, if I can reprioritize, it means I can change the way I think. And how important is that to a healthy mind? Obviously, it's clearly important to the way you're pursuing building this business as well.
Yeah. I think everyone has a different relationship with change, right? How I see change is a product of nature and nurture. How others see change is a product of their nature and nurture. And I think that is okay. Everybody has a different relationship with it. A lot of people find calm, right, in routine. And I think that is amazing, because that is an amazing way to feel grounded and feel calm by doing the same things every single morning. I personally, I need to push myself to do that. Right? Because I continue, I'm like, I did that yesterday. So for me, I have a different relationship with change, but I know how critical routine is to calm and my own processes. And so I think everybody has a different relationship, but I do believe, our days change, our hours change, our lives change, the news changes things on a daily basis. And so keeping that same list every single day is not realistic. It's not going to be realistic. And so if someone comes in with really good news or really not so good news, where does that fall in terms of what your relationship with that news is? Does it fall to the bottom because it's irrelevant to you? Does it, shoot up to the top because you need to congratulate somebody on something? Whatever that needs to, however you need to process through that reprioritization, and it can be a mental list, it can be a real list, but just make sure that you are putting things appropriately. Top, middle, bottom is how I think about it.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of people are responding to this whole list thing, by the way. They really like this. And then of course the idea of change. So listen, I think we talked about your company. We haven't talked about products. We said we weren't necessarily going to do it, but as I think about it, I think it's important for this community that's now thinking about their wellness. What did you think you had to roll out with first? What did you prioritize for our wellness in terms of our connection with Ray?
Well, no one in their right mind would have launched with 20 products in a brand new company, but we did.
How did you
Most people,
do that? That's crazy.
most companies launch with, 4 or 5 products, but again, with the end in mind and saying we need to be holistic. We don't need to like start and become whole. We need to be holistic because that's the gap. The gap is women need stuff for their sleep and their skin, not just their skin or not just their sleep. And so for us, it was really, really important to create a broad view of product and territories or need states or however you want to call it, and create the experiences and the conversations around those, because those were gaps. Stigmatized topics. No one was talking about sex. No one was talking about stress 3 years ago, right? In the ways we are now. And so for us, it's been so fun, not just from a product lens, but you talk about sex, to talk about it with a conversation, and the products are fueling that conversation. The conversation are fueling the products. And this at my partner, see other people have this issue too. At my best friend, this is what we were talking about last night. So it's this notion of taking these stigmatized topics, skin. People only think about their face and like what their wrinkles and retain. It's like, no, whole body skin is critical to well-being. And so for us, we're just coming at it from a little bit different lens than the rest of the market to fuel the conversation. Therefore, also creating products that help women feel better.
All right, we're going to take a look at the website in a second, but just tell us a little bit more about all of skin being critical to wellness. I guess skin, I've read this, right? Skin is our biggest organ.
Skin is your biggest organ.
Never think about that. I mean, no, but we don't, right?
We don't. And skin health, skin is an indicator of so many aspects of well-being. If you think about your stress, often it shows up on your skin. If you think about poor digestion, often it shows, up as an impact on your skin. Keeping your skin or keeping your body hydrated shows up on your skin or not. And so for us, it is, again, not just topically taking care of your skin, but the root cause of things that are important to your overall well-being that then impact your skin.
I see. Okay, show us, let's see. All right, so you did, what other kind of products? 20 products. Are we going to see them here? Chocolate. Okay.
Well, this is new. This is new. We just launched chocolates last week. And just to understand, what the reception would be, they are unbelievable. And who doesn't want a little help digesting their food with a little probiotic chocolate after dinner? So this was just a start. But yeah, if you hit shop, if you go up to shop, Sherry, you can start to see all of the territories. So whole body, skin, desire, digestion, stress, sleep. Those are some of the territories. Hormones. So if you scroll through the customer favorites and go back down, you can start to see some of the products we have. Actually, you know what, Sherry, go up to shop and shop all.
And these are the prices? I know. I am stunned. I listen, I read this great article yesterday on the price. I know this is going to sound very weird, on the price of the insulin, right? Diabetes, the amount of people have diabetes, the price of insulin in America is 100x outside of the world. Vitamins, when you go in, they're like $50. They're $70. Look at this.
Yeah. If you go to share, and we're vegan, non-GMO, like all of the good things. And what's important to us, just click on shop all for a moment. You're able to like really understand right across these territories of what makes sense to you. And most of our customers buy 2 or more, right? Because they're seeing the value of these things play together. But to your point on price, everything is $15.
That's right. That's amazing. So tell me about, all right, I'm shopping now, but tell me about probiotic chocolates. There's so much out there about probiotics. Yes, our guts are connected to our brains. I heard you say that, incredibly so. But what does something like this do? Other than the fact that, of course, I am a chocoholic. I'm sure that a lot of people are as well.
Yeah, we one of our best items is our pre-plus probiotic that has apple cider vinegar and an incredible strain of probiotics that help balance your gut flora and help your body prepare for digestion, which is the prebiotic, and then the probiotics that help your body really manage digestion and elimination, and promoting your body's natural ability to digest food is really, really important. And without going into all the history of food and everything that's happened over the last, 20 years, I think it's important to make sure that our guts are functioning appropriately, because that fuels so many aspects of our well-being, to your point.
Without a doubt. And I have to mention that. Hi, Bridget. Bridget, I love Bridget. She always joins us from Ghana. She was one of my mentees in a program we both participated in together over 15 years ago. We're still connected, which I love. She wants to make sure you're getting your wholesome, authentic, rich cocoa for your chocolates from Ghana. By the way, there's not anything that she is not promoting Ghana, and we love and appreciate her for that. And wherever we can make those connections, we can. And she wrote LOL. Of course, of course, of course, of course. Let's go back to the fact that you are a female founder. Obviously, let's state the case. There is so much out there. I think 2.4%, once again, of venture capital has gone to female founders. There is an effort to constantly raise that number. Did you find that you had stumbling blocks by bringing your products to the marketplace, being a female?
Yeah. And that 2.4%, by the way, is a high watermark, just to be clear. It is, and you know, through the pandemic, it actually decreased that some. Yes, I did. And you know, it starts like everything, it's so systemic and endemic, where I was talking to white male investors about a product that is created for the intersectionality and celebration for women. And when I talked about things like sexual desire, they're like, women need, I'm like, yes. So even, regardless of my gender.
By the way, you can't even let that pass. Like, that's astounding.
It's
Think about how astounding a comment that is.
And so, regardless of my gender, bringing a female wellness company to market and making sure that folks understood the gaps and understood what we were trying to accomplish was one aspect of it. And then, I think there's a lot of, when you believe in the mission, and then there's a language gap and there's a thought process gap, right? To a certain degree. And I have to say, fundraising was the hardest part of the journey. One of the harder, everything's not easy, but one of the harder parts of the journey. We got almost 100 no's before we got our first yes. And so it is, waking up in the morning, putting your pants back on, starting again, and continuing to believe in your mission. But it's not easy. But once we got our first yes, we got our second yes, and then they called their friends. And then all of a sudden we had this incredible support system around us. We're very, very fortunate with the community we do have. But it wasn't easy. And that was the really demoralizing process.
Have you connected with Gingerbread Capital?
Yes.
Okay, you have.
They're amazing.
Okay, great. Because those are our friends. I mean, Ita has been on this show and we're always talking about that. I know she's tied in with Kelly as well. So they would be perfect for this. But again, there's so many nuggets you're sharing for all of us to hear that, one, we work our butts off. You get out there, you have 100 people say no, but you don't give up, right? You don't give up.
But you listen and you adjust, right? So a lot of the, some of those 100 no's, some of them had good points on the nose. And I was like, well, let me think about that and process through that and really take your feedback and maybe adjust aspects of my business model. And some other things I was like steadfast, hard-headed about, where I was like, no, we can go to retail and have a website at the same time. We can do it all, right? And some people didn't like the fact that we were going to retail. Some people didn't like the fact that we were D2C. And so again, some of it, you just need to assess and sift through what's right for you.
That's right, because there are people who are going to invest their money in certain distribution strategies that they feel comfortable with or have seen work, right? And then therefore, I only want this or I only want that. You need to find the person who wants to do all of that. Are you free to say who was the first company that stepped up for you?
There were a few that kind of happened simultaneously. The folks at Bullish, I don't know if you've worked with them, are just incredible humans. Tim Kugel, who's the former CEO of Yahoo, and his wife stepped in really, really early. Just really good humans. Able Partners, they're a female fund. Victress is a female fund, and they're both on the East Coast. M13 was an incredible early supporter, and so again, we've got just a ton of diversity around the table, different thinkers around the table to help us look around corners in the company.
Okay, so we know we can go to your website. Tell us a little bit about your retail journey. I would imagine that through your time at Target, you would have an advantage that you would be familiar with other distribution channels and people who would be in a position to green light your movie. How difficult and challenging is that? Where are you now, and where would you like to go with it?
It's so funny. I was like, of course you're at Target now. You came, but I was like, it seems so obvious now. I had a huge non-compete, right? So it was not as simple as it seems. I just called my friends, and regardless, it's what will sell,
Of
right?
course.
It's not the relationship. And so, so today we're at Target. We're in Anthropology. We're on Thrive Market. We recently went to Sprouts and Whole Foods, which have been tremendous relationships, and we're also on Amazon. And so more to come. There's more planned. Of course, we're just going to continue to follow our consumer and where she shops,
Right.
and where she wants to find us.
That's great. You should also look, if you haven't already, at W. Have you looked at the W Marketplace? Take a look.
No.
We'll help you with that. Actually, Kate Eisler's been with us. She's a woman that worked at Microsoft and said, wait a second, women should be able to shop in a place and support other women. And so she's built an ecosystem around women supporting other women's businesses. Yes, anyone can come and shop, but interesting as well. So maybe something worth taking a look at. Anybody have any questions for our fantastic Angie? Angie, you have any questions for us, perhaps, that you would like to ask? I know isn't that where we always like to flip it here.
I have so many questions, and I'm cognizant of time, but I think my biggest question is, what are your biggest barriers from putting yourself on the list? What is it? Time? Is it the perception of time? Is it what is it? Because that's what we're trying to help women solve for.
Really, Erin, you're always talking about this too. The biggest barriers. It's always hard. You're putting yourself at the bottom of the list. I think it's interesting for me. I'm always thinking that I just don't have enough time. It's really time, right? There's so many things to do. Like my mom, hey mom, she's sitting downstairs and she calls me up and says, I'm going to come to your house today to watch this. Who doesn't want their mother to have some interest in what they do and show up? But okay, about 5 minutes to go. I'm running downstairs. We have the wrong link, all of that. And in my brain, I keep saying, okay, it's all great. This is what I want. But at the same time, I know I'm displacing, final couple of minutes with Angie to talk to her, getting all ready. And I think days like that for all of us, but especially women, you have kids, right? You have parents, you have your jobs, you have your house or whatever, where all those things layer up quickly. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's just hard. And I've just come to the conclusion that life isn't easy. It could be rich, wonderful, bountiful. If I had the right supplements, it would probably be a little bit easier. I don't know what anyone else is saying. Let me see what else we got here. Nobody's actually sharing today. What's up, girls? All right. Well, let me just say this, Angie, because we did say that we go for 45 minutes. I always keep a couple of notes here. And I here's a couple of the notes I wrote down from you today. There's so many. The first thing was, what's wrong with me? That as women, you said, I had this great job and I realized I didn't want to stay there. And your first go-to question was, what's wrong with me? And what's interesting? We don't ask enough is what's wrong with the system that doesn't allow us that. Now, I understand the drive of business. Believe me, I do. I understand the relentless pursuit of having to deliver. But we always think there's something wrong with us. And you're showing us there's nothing wrong with you at all, right? You said when you're not growing, you're not learning. And you added one more thing after that. And I think that's also great. Doesn't matter how old you are, what your business is, your experience. If you're not continuing to learn, then you're not going to grow. And so that's why we love this community as well. The idea of women considering putting themselves on the priority list for the first time, in numbers and intent is so valuable. And then lastly, you talked about thinking holistically, right? And that we have to think of ourselves holistically. I love when you talk about brands can be a platform for women, standing for and by women. I thought that was really, really powerful as well. I love all brands to stand by women, but we appreciate in particular the fact that you are planted your flag very boldly, very loudly and proudly on behalf of women. And it should give all of us a sense of confidence and trust and teamwork to say, hey, listen, I like to have Ray in my life. I am so glad that you, Angie, have stepped into my life. And I'd like to again thank Kelly and all of her colleagues for doing that. Love to see how we can continue to partner as we are a community, a broad community of women across the country. And the fact that you want to help all of us, I think speaks loudly. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So fun talking to you.
It's really fun. It's really, really fun. Okay. What are you saying? Okay. It's all good. Okay. We're all good. All right, everyone. I just wanted to say we will be back in 2 weeks, the 9th of February. I will tell you now that I will be hosting the Zoom in Tel Aviv, Israel. You probably wouldn't know if I didn't tell you other than I have a new background. We're going to be focusing, February is the month of love. I love the month of February because of that. We're going to focus on love making the world go round. Actually, Angie could come back because we're going to focus on 2 women in particular who have taken their love and looking how they're making a difference in the world that impacts us all. I'm sorry. Oh my God, you see that? So February 9th, same bat time, same bat channel. Angie, thank you so very much. Everybody, let's all applause for Angie and of course Ray Wellness. And I'm heading out to Target to check it out myself, or maybe I have to order the chocolates before they disappear. Yes.
I would start there and then head to Target. Yes, for sure.
There you go. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, team. Appreciate it all. Be well, everyone.
So much. All right.
Bye-bye.